Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Eddie Jennings from EJSLLC.com. This video is going to be back in the realm of music education and in particular band directing, and I'm going to go into some details about things to consider when you're preparing for your LGPE performances that usually come in the early spring for a typical school year. Before I dive in, I want to remind you, if you enjoy the content of the video, make sure you click like and also subscribe to the channel and ring the bell when you do, so that way you can be notified when new content is made available. So LGPE, or Large Group Performance Evaluation, or contest, or festival, it's going by many different names, and pretty much any music educator, I'd say in the United States, either as band directors or orchestra directors or chorus directors, have all had to work with it, and I am no exception. During my years as a middle school band director, I had groups of students that I would take the LGPE, and most years the kids did quite well. They were well prepared. Some years were more prepared than others. And so what I want to talk about are three things that I think can be easy to overlook in your endeavors to prepare to prepare your kids for your LGPE performance. Now, if you're a veteran band director, I'm sure you've heard these things before, and even young band directors probably have as well. But the idea here, and you've probably seen this with your students, is sometimes hearing some of the same things from a different voice helps it to sink into your head a bit better. And if you haven't had an outside source listen to your students and give some feedback, I encourage you to try to do that sometime. Maybe have a band director colleague come and listen to your kids. And a lot of times what will happen at the end of that, they'll tell your kids, all right, you guys and folks are doing well. You need to work on some of these fundamentals: good tone, make sure you're all sitting with good posture and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes what you'll see from the kids, they'll hear that from this person and go, oh yeah, that makes sense, we need to do this. And you're saying, they're going, I've been telling you this for months, why is it somehow more significant now? There's no answer to that. It's just kind of how it is. And so I'm hoping for this video for this to be a reminder to the veteran directors and to younger directors, hopefully a reminder to you as well. But if not, maybe an opportunity to go, hey, perhaps I need to prioritize these things in rehearsal. So the first of these three aspects I want to talk about is working on tone quality with your kids. And this is obvious. You always hear, got to have a good tone, and that is 100% true. But sometimes when you're in the heat of rehearsing for a pretty important performance like the large group performance evaluation, it can be easy to overlook that. And especially now, it's at the end of January, and I remember when I was band director. This is kind of getting to the middle of the LGPE preparation cycle. A lot of times you start at the beginning of January, or maybe you start reading some of your pieces near the end of December, and then really hit the ground running in January. Your LGPE performances are often, at least in Georgia, often mid to late March. So right now it's kind of in the middle of that cycle. And as you're working with your kids on their notes and rhythms and trying to get a lot of the technical aspects of your pieces ready, it can be easy to forget about tone. And I encourage you to try to resist falling into that trap, and always demand of your kids the best possible tone that they can produce. Now, you as the director of the kids understand that good tone is different for different ensembles. What I would consider a good tone for a middle school band that has kids that have been playing for and getting near the end of their third year of playing, good tone for that is going to sound very different than maybe my group of seventh graders that have been playing for about a year, maybe year and a half. But whatever good tone is for your ensemble, make sure that you're demanding that at all times. And an easy way to do this is, let's say that you have your your student's working on a tough technical passage, and with that, they finally are starting to make some headway on it. We have far fewer wrong notes. Rhythms are more precise, but their tone might be real brash, or it might be thin, or it might be harsh. What you can tell them is, hey, folks, you're doing much better on the technique. Let's try it one more time and see if we can get the best tone possible. Or what I often would do with my kids, they play something, I would ask them, how do you think that sounded? And a lot of times kids will be honest with you, and sometimes they'll be overly critical of themselves about how they sound. And the lesson there is, your technique, your notes and rhythms and such are important, but it's kind of all for naught if the sound isn't good. And to enforce that good sound, you don't have to bring your rehearsal to a screeching halt. Oh no, that's the most terrible sound ever. No, all that's going to do is discourage your kids and kind of make them feel a bit hopeless, like, oh well, we can't possibly have a good sound. No, the way you handle that is have them do it one more time, and if you need to, get to where you isolate some issues of tone, such as, all right, so this next time we're going to run it, and let's see if we can keep the volume at maybe this level here instead of here, right? But the key is in insisting that they always play with the best possible sound. Now, for young directors, and I'm speaking from personal experience here, I don't pretend to be a master of teaching band and such, but I've got some skills over the years, and I had some successes when I was younger, and some less than successes as well. And it can be tempting to go, in order to get that good tone, I'm going to have to sacrifice time away from technique, and you don't have to do that. Because think about it, if you have your kids do 2 or 3 extra reps, making sure that the tone sounds good, or each time giving them a certain aspect of tone production and seeing if they can improve it, you're getting those technique reps at the same time. So really, if anything, you're kind of gaining time and working on 2 things at once, but presenting it in a way to your kids where it doesn't seem like it's overwhelming to hit it. It's all right. Keep doing that technique. Let's see if we can make the tone a bit better. And also, what helps is to model that for your kids as well, which that sometimes goes without saying. The second aspect I want to talk about is intonation. And of course, we know, hey, we all have to play in tune. You have to match pitch and that. Something that I encourage you to think about as far as how to get your kids to play with good intonation is think about what the word is, intonation, in tone. Ask your kids if first ask if they can hear each other. And then if they can't, then that's pretty much kind of a sign, hey, you're playing too loud. We need to back out to where we can hear each other. And get your kids to try to match the tone. Now, I'm not saying don't mention pitch to them at all. Don't mention in tune, out of tune, that kind of thing. But try to get them to where they're listening to match sound. Now, of course, every kid's going to have some unique characteristics of their tone. But as an ensemble, what we're trying to have is the trumpet section sound, the clarinet section sound, the saxophone section sound, to where we're blending there. When you do that, your kids are going to have to play better in tune, because it's not possible to match tones with one another if you're not also playing in tune. Now, you might have kids that really grasp the concept of match and pitch quite well, and if you do, awesome. I had some ensembles I taught that if I got them to match each other's tone, they could do that pretty well. But if I gave them kind of this abstract, all right, make sure you're playing in tune with the person beside you. For some reason, it was difficult for them to get that mental idea of what is in tune. But if I said, hey, match the sound of the person beside you, they can do that. So the key is getting them to match, and whatever technique that you use to do that is probably valid. And if you're in a position where you're not sure what to try, my suggestion is try to make them listen and match the sound, and not necessarily tell them specifically what aspects of sound to match, volume, pitch, all of that. Just say, hey, sound like, I'm going to have you, trumpet player, play me a second line G. And they're playing the G, and then while they're holding the note, have another kid come in, and the goal is make it match. Now, if they're wildly out of tune, they'll probably look at you and go, all right, what do I do? Well, at that point, you give them some suggestions. Your ears should be good enough to hear if they're sharp or flat, or hear if one tone is thin and another tone is nice and round. And then you can tell them, hey, try opening your teeth, or let's push or pull the tuning slide. But the point being is that you're getting them to listen. So how this goes back to the whole, I'm not sure if I have time to actually work on this. We're trying to get our notes and rhythms and such right. Well, again, this is opportunities. Hey, we got the technique pretty well right, but can we match each other's sound a little bit better? Try it again. Well, you're getting your technique repetition, as well as getting some time in to try to get the kids to listen to one another, because really our goal as directors is to try to help create some competent, independent musicians, to where they don't have to be necessarily told all the time, hey, you need to fix this pitch problem, or hey, you're not blending here or there. Try to get them to listen and catch it. The last thing I want to talk about is musicality. And just like the first two aspects here, tone and intonation, you're probably thinking, well, that's obvious. We need to play musically. But again, sometimes if you get in the weeds of trying to hammer down technique, it can be easy to forget to teach being musical. And I can recall a year that this was after I had transitioned from being a band director and being an IT professional. I was hired to record the judges' comments for an LGPE event. I was brought in to record the judges, and then I would burn those tracks to a CD, hand them to the band director, and that's how they got their feedback. And I can't recall what piece it was, and that kind of bothers me that I can't, because I can kind of vividly hear it in my head. And there was a group that was working on this piece, and they were playing it on stage, and they were great technicians, good tone, intonation was quite good, technique was clear, rhythms were precise, balance was there. But in this piece, there were several opportunities of ritornando and rallentando, and there were some fermatas, some of which you kind of elided into the next phrase, some of which would be fermata off and then start playing. And this band, with this great sound, great technique, all that, just kind of plowed through them. And a couple of the judges led into the band director about that. And what they were saying was, how can you have a group that has this level of technique but not let them play musically, and not make them, not draw that music out of them? And so I encourage you in your rehearsals to take the time to focus on the musical things. One big thing for young bands is trying to get forte piano right. And what I would do when I would rehearse my students is I'd have them play and hold whatever the chord is, and all right, let's play it at a good forte sound. And then we play it again at forte, and then decrescendo to as soft as we can play, but still maintain that good sound and pitch. And then we would practice, all right, start forte and then immediately drop to piano. And we would rehearse this many times, and then, put that small little piece into context and play whatever the passage is, and make sure the forte piano is there. Well, rehearsing that musical aspect reinforced tone and intonation, because each time I play, hey, make sure you're listening to one another, make sure that you are your matching pitch and such. Or if it's a section that has some change in tempo, you can work on the technique as far as, hey, we still have to have our notes and rhythms right, but you're also now having to watch to make sure we stay together with tempo and all that kind of stuff. The point being, if you do take the time to drill in those musical things, it'll be beneficial for you in twofold, in my opinion. Thing number one is it's going to be more enjoyable for you and your kids when you get to the performance, because A, they aren't going to be afraid of taking a chance with some of these musical ideas because you've been coaching them through that, and B, they have a greater chance of, they hit those moments, and while they're on stage have that musical moment, with the goosebumps on their arms and such, and it makes it a more fun experience, which is kind of our job as educators. To we want to have our kids excited about playing music. Thing number two is it's more enjoyable for your judges. They get to hear a nice musical performance, and you'll probably earn some higher marks and such, because you took the time to not only play the ink correctly, as we say, but also to play the music as well. And if you're thinking about these things right now as I'm talking to you, you're probably realizing how, when you're rehearsing the notes and rhythms and the technique, how you can incorporate this tone, intonation, and musicality into rehearsing your notes and rhythms. So you're not having to take extra time to do it. It's just a part of the rehearsal. Now, it might sound like I'm bashing on teaching technique and making sure that's right. I'm not. This is a very important aspect of playing. But what I encourage you to do is, as you're preparing your kids for LGPE, or really any performance, but the focus of this video was LGPE, is take that step back and just ask yourself, hey, are they playing with their good tone? Are we matching pitch? Are we playing good intonation? Are we taking the time to work on the music as well? Because it can be easy to forget when you're in the heat of the moment of rehearsing. Well, I hope you found this useful. If you're a veteran band director, hopefully this is kind of a reminder of, oh yeah, I need to do the things that I know that I need to do to help my kids sound good. And if you're a new director and you're kind of getting into the weeds of preparing for LGPE, and you're like, hey, my group doesn't sound good, what can I do to fix it? What can I do to fix them, the group? Hopefully this will give you the idea of, oh yeah, I do need to make sure that they're always playing with their good tone, and as I'm trying to help them through their notes and rhythms, we can be reinforcing these at the same time. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to watch. If you enjoyed the content, make sure you click like on the video. Also share it with other directors who you think might benefit from it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and ring the bell when you do, so you get notifications when new content comes up. Also, feel free to leave feedback and ask questions. Like as I said, I'm not the world's greatest band director, or wasn't the world's greatest band director when I was teaching, but I did have some success with my kids, and I'm always happy to lend what wisdom that I have and things that work for me, and hopefully you would be able to adapt them to be able to be successful with your kids as well. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you the next time.